Howdy, y'all. Coming from the West, I say stuff like that. My name is Kent Beck. I've been at Facebook for 7 years, and some other stuff before that. And yeah, I can't count on it. Like, I'll have people come up to me and just like, oh, such an honor to meet you. You know, and I'm this much awesome, but they're acting like I'm that much awesome. So that much of it has nothing to do with me. But there are other people who just don't know who I am at all. So it's not like, well, I'm the Kent Beck. Anyway, I'm wasting my time. So I have something to say, but before I say it, I want to answer the question about why not chaos in prod? Accountability. You're already losing customer data, making mistakes, showing people wrong things, crashing in production, but there's no accountability for that. But if you did a chaos experiment, maybe I'll just call it a chaos and see how that works. Anyway, if you did an experiment and you lost customer data, then it would be your fault. So this is one of those compared to what things. It's like you're already losing stuff in prod because there's problems that only happen in prod, but nobody can pin it to any one place. And it would take organizational evolution to make it okay to cause lost customer experience on purpose. Okay. Story. The first project I was on at Facebook was the Messenger backend. And we had a situation where our service was deployed on a rack, and another service that happened to share the same rack changed their backup policies. So in the middle of the night, they backed up all of their data all at once, saturated the top of rack switch, and our service went down. And there was no way to predict that those two things were at all related, right? Completely different teams, completely different reporting structures. We didn't have any metrics in common. They didn't know that they'd messed up. We didn't know that they'd messed us up until we dug for a while. So this goes back, as the first talk was going on, I was thinking, well, there's a missing step just before this explanation, which is why is this necessary at all? So it goes back to my definition of design, which is design is beneficially relating elements. You got a bunch of elements in the system, and because they're broken up into elements, they can have relationships, and those relationships create benefit. So that's what design is. But there are also detrimental relationships between the elements, like my service sharing a rack switch with some irresponsible bastards. Those detrimental relationships tend to be hidden. And there needs to be a way to find those detrimental relationships under controlled conditions. The detrimental relationships aren't necessarily mistakes on anybody's part. I mean, especially at Facebook scale, there's a bunch of stuff that happens that's just never happened in the history of computing before because nobody's ever tried to do anything that crazy before. And then you discover, oh, I guess we have to have some way of metering bandwidth. And your service only gets so much bandwidth, and then you have to build some system to do it. So it's not that it was a mistake to produce that detrimental relationship in the first place. Nobody did anything wrong. But once they're there, if you can find them under controlled conditions, then you're way ahead than finding them under uncontrolled conditions. So that's how I would take the step back and say, well, why do we even need to be doing this? It's not because we screwed up. It's because we made reasonable decisions that were locally optimized that created these detrimental relationships. So chaos engineering for me is discovering detrimental relationships in a design under controlled conditions. And that's all I have to say.